What's up everyone, David here, welcome to another video. What better way to get back on track than showing you and trying with you the brand new stereo tube saturator from Gainlab Audio, the Wizard. Highly anticipated unit, there's a lot of buzz around this, and for a reason, Gainlab Audio simply doesn't miss. Everything they make is pretty amazing, and I gotta say, this one is no different. You will see immediately how versatile this thing is, which is pretty amazing for a saturator, but in all honesty, this is not just a tube saturator. It's got an extremely musical 3-band EQ in it, and even a 1-knob dynamic section based on a vari-mu topology. This thing is pretty amazing, and I'm about to show you and let you hear how it sounds. Let's go! Hello everyone, welcome back to McSolaar TV. Hope you guys are having a great day. Before we start, as usual, check the info box down below for free plugin special discounts, offers, and of course, link to the Gainlab Audio Wizard. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the website mixplusTV.com. In there, you can also find all the mix and mastering courses available. And if you want to access the exclusive library of in-depth mixing and mastering videos here on YouTube, click the join button, become a Mix Plus TV member, access the library, and get all the perks. And if the videos are helping you, please consider using the super thanks or grab some merch. Let's get to the video. Let's get right into it because, like I said, I think the strength of the Wizard is how versatile it is, which with saturation is not really common. But Gainlab really managed to make a unit that is hard to make it sound bad. So in this video, I want to provide you with as many audio examples as possible on many different sources so that you can understand how useful this unit can be in the studio. Let's take a look at the front panel and the controls first. The main and most important controls you can see from the size of the knobs, of course, are the input and the output knob. This is what controls the amount of saturation. We have a high-pass switch filter with 3 positions: off, second order, and first order. This takes off the low end out of the saturation circuit because many times we don't really want to saturate the sub energy, right? In fact, this HPF is centered around 50 Hertz. Then we have the, I gotta say, super musical 3-band equalizer. We have lows, mids, and highs. For the lows, we have a switch with 2 frequency choices, 60 and 120. For the mid band, we have 3 EQ choices, 1500, 800, and 300. And for the top end, we have 2 EQ choices, 2K or 4K, and then we have, of course, the on-off switch, which turns the EQ in and out of the circuit. All the 3 knobs are continuous and can be positive or negative gain. For the lows, we have -14, +9, -+6 for the mid, and -+8 for the top end. You will notice something in the audio example which is very important because this unit is simple and intuitive, but it's better if you watch this video to really understand how it works. For example, let's say you set your saturation level with the input knob and then you start boosting with the EQ. The EQ will feed into the saturation. Many times you will end up backing off the initial level of saturation if you start boosting with the EQ. Vice versa, the other way around, if you set your saturation with the input and then you start cutting with the EQ, most likely you will find yourself wanting to boost a little more compared to the initial setting. My advice is, if you plan on EQing and using the EQ, try to EQ first and get a general idea of the tone that you want, and then you fine-tune the amount of saturation with the input because those two interact with each other greatly. After the EQ, we have another very important knob, which is the bias knob. You can see it here, and you can see already the THD meter in here. This meter here gives you a visual representation of the THD, the amount of saturation that we are performing on the material. Now, if you notice, this bias knob has 3 markings: cold, hot, and sweet, which of course tells you that the range there around, let's say, from 12 and 1, 2 o'clock, it's the sweet spot. What do they mean by sweet spot? And this gives me a chance to talk about the type of saturation that the Wizard has. In that bias range, you will notice the unit has a very natural type of saturation. It's not hyped on the highs, it's not hyped on the lows, it's not hyped on the mid-range. It's pretty much flat. It's somehow extremely faithful to the source. So you won't have a tonal imbalance. What you will have is just more richness, more harmonic content, but it's somewhat even and it just glues with the source seamlessly. This, I think, it's one of the strengths of this unit. It's a natural enhancement that doesn't even sound like saturation in the way we think of saturation. So pleasant, but still distortion. This is so natural. It just feels denser. It feels like another layer of what we feed to it, just richer. Now, when you start turning the knob either towards the cold or the hot, you will see you can create crazy cool special effects, especially for synth and drums. And I'll do my best to show you what kind of cool settings I found using these extreme settings. So that means that 80% of the time when you want to use the Wizard as a general purpose saturator or for your tubas, for example, you will stay in the sweet spot. When you want to create more extreme effects, you will go towards the hot or the cold. This is very important, and just as important is the next knob, which is the feed knob. Now, this will explain you how the Wizard works, and I want to say how it's meant to be used. By default, so with the feed knob all the way to minimum, you have your dry signal and your saturated signal going at the same time. So the Wizard is meant to be used as a parallel saturator, but you can take the dry signal out of the output by turning the feed knob towards the max. So when the feed is at max, there's no dry signal and the effect is all you get. Only the saturated signal goes out the output. And of course, this knob is continuous, so you can have any blend from 50-50 to 100% saturated. Now you will see that in real life use, most likely you will want to use this with the knob at minimum. One trick that I learned right off the bat when I started using the Wizard is I prefer to start with the knob all the way to max. So I only monitor the saturated signal so I can fine tune it. And at that point I blended with my dry signal. And I found out that I am much faster finding the right settings for my saturation if I do it this way. Next knob is the pressure. This is basically a one knob dynamic processor based on a Varimu concept. So you will hear it. It can be quite punchy, actually super easy to set. It's just one knob, or you can just tap the material to keep things under control. Keep in mind that the pressure compresses everything, not just the saturated signal, but also the dry signal. Then of course we have our output knob to compensate, which you will see in the examples because I want you to see the whole process in finding the settings. It's not easy to level match. It is possible once you found them, but we will have in the process level changes, okay? Keep that in mind for the matching levels, please. Lastly, we have three types of metering. Let me run a signal through it so you can see them in action. The first one, of course, is the output right here. And then if I engage the saturation, you will see we have the THD, so the amount of saturation that we are applying to the signal. And then we have the dynamic gain reduction level right here. All right, so extensive metering for everything in this new Gainlab unit, the Wizard. Without further ado, let's hear it in action. Okay, from this first example, you saw I am staying in the sweet spot, right? And I'm using a little bit of EQ because the EQ really interact with the saturation. Imagine the EQ being your tone control for the saturation, right? The more low end you push, the more the low end is going to be saturated and warm. The more top end you push and the more alive the top end is going to be. Mid-range, you want to cut some, you want to add more presence. This really is kind of a combination of other machines that we've seen which incorporate EQ and saturation. This one uses almost the EQ as a tonal control for the saturation. I stayed conservative. Now I'm going to do some exaggerated settings to make you understand what the cold and hot do. And to do that, I'm going to take the dry signal completely out so you can hear the character really well. Okay, you notice one thing. If we go towards the hot side, is rounder and warmer type of saturation, exaggerated, right? That's why there's a sweet spot. And if we go towards the cold, we almost get a gated type of sound, which is one of the tricks that I was talking about at the beginning. And it's so great on acid synths and for drums to enhance the attack. That's a trick that shouldn't be free. I'm gonna show it to you in a minute, but let me do acid synths first. So this thing can totally do, many of you will wonder already, can we put this on a 2-bus, on a mix? Absolutely you can. I'm doing exaggerated settings right now because I want you to see the insane range that this saturator has. And with the bias knob, you can do some really cool sounds. So 100%, you can use it on vocals, you can use it on bass, you can use it on 2-bus groups in a subtle way, just you would imagine you would use a saturator for a full mix. Light, subtle, and all that. But it's very interesting to see how this thing can also do so many other things. And with the EQ, you get so many different sounds. Let's do drums. All right, I didn't use the EQ yet, but you hear what I was saying at the beginning? When you don't use the EQ, it's such a natural enhancement of the original source. One thing to pay attention, you can go back and rewatch, the big difference there is between with and without the HPF filter. Don't worry about cutting your low end because you're not cutting it from the dry signal. You're only cutting it from the saturation circuit, right? So you avoid feeding the sub energy. Again, the HPF is around 50 hertz into the saturation because many times it either doesn't sound that great with any saturator in general, or it prevents you from pushing it hard enough. But you can also use it for special effects. We'll see that in trap beats and 808s. And notice also what I did here with the drums. I started with the feed all the way to the max because I want to hear what I'm adding, right? I want to hear the saturation first. And that is much easier to find the breaking point. And it's funny because every time that I think maybe this is too much or maybe I'm pushing too much, when you re-inject the dry signal, everything is fine. It blends with the original signal so freaking well. Let's play with the EQ on drums. Now let me show you the cold tube gate trick. All right, you hear we got this extra distortion on the transient, almost gated type of effect, and now we blend the dry signal with it. And this is what we're feeding it, right? This is the saturated part, this grinding, broken kind of sound, but blended with the dry signal, we get more snap and more aggression on the drums. If we add the EQ in, that's pretty cool. This already shows you how versatile this thing is. Let's do some other examples. Okay, once again, any type of drum, you can always find a way to either round it off and make it more maybe vintage or just a natural richness to it, or make it more snappy and aggressive, almost broken. There's so many sounds on this thing. Okay, again, you can use it for that verge of breaking kind of distortion, which is really cool, or just subtle natural enhancement. Said I would do 808. This is another example in which you can play with a cold and hot bias knob. Super clean 808. Check this out. I mean, just this, it gets so massive at the bottom. Granted, I have a little bit of EQ, but you heard it. But what I want to show you is how you can add subtle or not so subtle harmonics to your 808s so they translate to small speakers. All right, you hear the difference in the harmonics when I go towards the cold or the hot. So it's a more square type of wave when we go to the cold, side of the bias, and we get this higher harmonic cutting through. And of course, I'm exaggerating the settings, so it comes through YouTube. And a rounder, warmer, less abrasive when we go to the hot. The sweet spot still being the sweet spot if we add the EQ to the equation, though. All right, again, it can be very subtle, massive low end with a little bit of a harmonics added, right? Because with 808, it's a tricky thing. The more mid-range, the more higher harmonics you add, you even given the same amount of low end, it seems like it has less low end because it's just a matter of perception and perspective, okay? So it's always a fine line between having that round, deep low end with the 808 and adding harmonics, because yes, the mid-range and top harmonics will translate better to small speakers, but at the same time, it makes the 808 feel like it's less heavy at the bottom. With this one, there's no lack of fine-tuning that. Let's try it on the tuba, shall we? So you hear it's quite sensitive. If the program material that you feed into it, it's dynamic, when it goes up in level, the saturation will change a lot. So you have to be careful, again, with gain staging like everything else. Now, there's one thing that you need to be aware of if you're planning on using this only on tubas and for your mixes. There is a reason, because there's this HF high pass filter, right? It's because, again, when we saturate the sub range, it doesn't always sound great. And this is with many saturators, okay? So usually you will see that most likely you will want that HPF engaged. And that, depending on the amount of saturation, will feel like you are taking some low end off, right? That's why also the EQ is there, because you kind of counterbalance by re-adding a little bit of low end with the EQ, okay? Let me show it to you. Shine on this side of town.
soul is tainted. Should've been out by now, running out of patience, losing my mind now. Feel like I gotta watch my back, I'm in danger. Used to be homie, some changed up, hard working, now to say look, just caked up. I made up my mind, I gotta get the bag. Shorty, I am not the one, so don't you get attached. And where I am from, it's like we never had. So if I gotta split, then I get the better half. And I just paint the picture, and I ain't never rap. Got my mind on my money, money on my mind, and these streets kinda funny, so I hang on to that.
Okay, so there's no doubt that it enhances the material, but especially if you're going for 2-bus and full mixes, you have to be extremely detailed in your settings. That's why this unit doesn't have switches, like pretty much all the other, Gainlab audio units. Like these are all switches, okay? Because with the Saturator, the smallest change in where the knob is positioned changed dramatically the amount of saturation, the tone, and so on. So if you see me, I'm extremely conservative, both with the EQ and the saturation, because it's a full mix, okay? So keep that in mind. That goes for any saturator that you put on the 2-bus, right? Even other saturators that I have here, it's a 50-50. Sometimes I just turn it off because it doesn't go with the material, and sometimes it works perfectly. This is so versatile that most likely you will find a way to use it more often than others. But most important, this thing, it's crazy because it goes well on so many different sources. I'm gonna do a couple more mixes and then we'll try on other single tracks.
I'm sick of this game. I'm sick, let me hate. Let me off the crazy train. I'm sick of your face. I'm sick of heartache. Goodbye, goodbye to the tears. Goodbye, goodbye to the fears. Good times last for a dime. Good times until our time. You know what you're doing, you know how you're moving. Jay's dark lipstick on those cherry blossom lips. You know what you're doing, you know how you're moving. Now I'm a shade of red, move on to the next. Sick of heartbreak, becoming a monster of rage. Sick of heartache, you make my heart break. This is your death date, my babe. This is the bitter taste, my babe. This is what heartache is, my babe. This is true hate for my babe. You're sick of my mouth. You're sick of my doubt. You wanna play games in peace. You're sick of my tears. You're sick of getting caught, my dear. Goodbye, goodbye to the tears. Goodbye, goodbye.
Okay, it's undeniable, the density and just how rich the material gets. And again, even though I'm being conservative, I am still exaggerating for a full mix, okay? Especially for a finished mix like this. So keep that in mind. This is something that the range is crazy. It goes from gated fuzz to subtle natural saturation. So there's a lot to unpack. Once you get this one, you gotta spend some time with it for sure.
Choke, can't stand this kind of smoke. Que pasa, nasa, vámonos. Ya toca lado, I know y'all grinding dominoes. Y'all need to stop it and go stocking or go pop the flow. Rapido, I'm a capo, de tutti capi. You are now on your face, let's put the heat on. These weak mouths with them key rhymes. Beat on these peons, still I see him holding up peace signs. Y'all better be wise and behave, cause these guys will be keeping stinging your retards like fucking with a beehive.
You'll never be able to see how can y'all deny? Shit, I was rhyming the beats when y'all were like knee high. Brody called me and he like, you got an hour of free time? I'm like, find me a beat and I'll probably body it each line. Call me Bam Bam, I'm a jackass with a foul mouth. I left my parents bad like dad, you're the man of the house now. Since a grand slam, I'm a backhand some clowns now. Get sandblasted
faster than manhandle like.
All right, you can use it subtly enough to where you barely hear it when you turn it on, but you feel the difference when you switch it off, right? Let me do a couple of extra tracks. For example, on electric bass, you can do this classic SVT-ish kind of sound. All right, once again, on the verge of breaking, very, very cool sound. Acoustic guitar last. I think one of the best thing about this unit is that it's so gradual. So you really can play with how much and when it starts breaking. Also, it handles very well very dynamic material, and that's one cool thing about, you know, an analog saturator, this one in particular, versus, you know, what you hear with plugins usually, that they're kind of static. And this is it for the new Gainlab GLA-T1TS, I think it's called. It's called Wizard. That's the cool name, and that's how we're calling it. Stereo tube saturator, also 3-band EQ, dynamic section, and I think it sounds great. Let me know what you think in the comment down below. If you like the video, please don't forget to leave a like. If you want to support the channel, use the super thanks, grab some merch. If you want to book mix and mastering with me, go to the website mixbesttv.com. In there you can also find all the mix and mastering courses available. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And again, thank you all for the love and support. I will post an update on the personal stuff soon. She's doing better. Stay safe. See you next time.